Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams and ACTN. My name is Steve David and I'm your host. And with me on set today is my co-host, as usual, Narada Wilson. Narada, welcome to the set.
Thanks for having me again, Steve. Pleasure to be here. And I think this would be another top viewing interview that we're going to have today.
Okay, and I have one of my top internationals that came to this country maybe 15, 16 years ago. And he's done so much for us. I call him the foreign local. Welcome to the set, Terry.
Thank you very much, Steve. And it's actually 18 years in January.
18.
Yeah.
And his name is Terry Fenwick. And you all know him because he's like one of us now. Terry, I want to know a little bit more about Terry Fenwick. I heard about you playing in England, of course. And then you came to Trinidad. So I want to take it back to your early childhood in England and bring it forward to today. Okay, so tell me, where were you born? And give me a little bit about when the dream started.
The dream started, I was born in Seaham Harbour, which is a small mining town 6 miles south of Sunderland, right on that northeast coast where it's bitterly cold all year round. Doesn't matter what sort of summer you're having anywhere. In the northeast of England, it's always freezing cold. And my background really is that everybody within the town worked down the mines, the coal mines, unless you had some sort of talent to get out.
Right.
And that was always in the back of my mind as a kid. I didn't want to go down the coal mines. I looked at generations of families in and around me, and that wasn't for me. I didn't want to do that. And I worked extremely hard as a youngster on all my skill sets. I practiced in the street, I practiced in my backyard. I always had a ball around me, and whether it was a tennis ball, I worked my skill sets very hard from 5, 6, 7, right through my youthful age into my senior schools before I got the opportunity to go to Crystal Palace as a 15-year-old. And at that time there was two men that were very well known in England. Malcolm Allison, who was a very colourful character, Manchester City, won numerous championships for Man City over the years, and Terry Venables, who became my mentor. These guys had a wonderful vision of football and how it should be played, and it was very much different to how I'd been coached at school with school teachers. And it opened my mind up to so many different things. And what they did was they done a scouting network which was throughout the UK, and they brought 11 and 12-year-olds together to see what talent was onshore, what was coming through the ranks, so they could pick off and cherry pick and bring the best kids together. And that's what they did with me. They came to the northeast of England, and I shone in amongst 150, 200 kids. And then from them, they took me on side. I went to London almost every school holiday. And again, coaching was different class. It was, you know, miles ahead of everything else that I'd learned up until that stage through my school football. And I was fortunate enough to be selected for England schoolboys, for England youth levels at under 17, under 21. I was part of the England under 21 team that were the first English side to win the European Championships. I was the first, and I think I still am the only kid to score consecutive goals in 2 FA Youth Cup finals. I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur as a 16-year-old. And this was all under the guise of Terry Venables and Malcolm Allison. They were great coaches, great individuals. They knew how to manage the board in the boardroom and get down on their, you know, right down into it for the kids that were coming off the street to play for their teams within their club. And that for me was a wonderful experience and opportunity. At 15 and a half, I moved down from the northeast of England. I moved down to London, where they put me in digs. I lived with a family. The Lee family, who were fabulous, looked after me very well. And then I bought my own apartment in London at 17, which was very young, scared the life out of my family. They were living in a £50 house in northeast, and I was buying a £21,500 apartment in London. So it was a big difference. But one of the good things was behind the scenes, and Rada would testify to this, a lot of the clubs now around the world, they've got somebody behind the scenes that's specifically there to look after the development, financial aspect of kids like myself coming through, that I didn't have any real academic background.
Right.
My background was either going to be football or down the coal mine.
Right.
So I'd made a decision very early, 6 and 7-year-old, that I didn't want that. And I worked hard at my skill sets, and I worked hard on my discipline. I was very aggressive about everything I'd done. And I married it together. I made it work for me, and I could play in every position. I played centre forward, I played midfield, I played centre back. Other than goalkeeper, you could fit me in anywhere.
Right.
I was as comfortable on my left foot as my right. I worked on everything, and it came off. It paid dividends in the end, and I've involved in a wonderful sport. It still is the beautiful game. There are some unscrupulous characters inside of it, but I still believe in the dream for youngsters today, and that led me to a long career in England, where I played for over 12 years in Division 1. That then changed into the Premiership that we know today.
And that's with Crystal Palace?
Crystal Palace I started with, then into Queen's Park Rangers, promoted into the Premiership. I was club captain there for 7 years before I then moved to Tottenham for 6 years, and had a great time at some great clubs under great coaches. Terry Venables actually took me from Crystal Palace to Queen's Park Rangers. He then took me from Queen's Park Rangers on to Tottenham. And it was wonderful. I had a career at a fantastic time. The 70s and the 80s, early 90s was wonderful for football. And it's just got better. I mean, what we see on television today in the Premiership is astonishing. Right. The transfer fees that we're looking at right today are blow mind. Yeah. You know, we got players now going for £200 million. That's just astonishing.
Back in the 70s was £200.
Well, I was transferred from Queen's Park Rangers to Tottenham for £650,000, right, which then was a fortune.
That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Not anymore. The players get that a week. They get paid that a week.
Right. Right.
So the game is changing, and I think for the better. It's been recognised now as the biggest sport on the planet. And we've now got from all it used to be condensed in Europe and all the best players would go to Europe, but you've now got China coming on track, you've got the MLS and the United States working very hard to get level with that. South America is producing great players. They need to now build on their infrastructure to keep them there rather than the big money clubs in Europe.
Correct.
But it's fantastic, and because of television now, you know, let's make no mistake, football is run now by television money. And because of that, it's in everybody's front room. And it doesn't matter whether you support San Jablatier, St Anne's Rangers, you also support a Manchester United, a Chelsea, a Premiership club. That's what grips you.
Now, in England, I know you played for different clubs, but so did you get to the FA and win, or what was the accolades? I
got to my again, things that I'm very proud of. I'm still the only youth player to score the winning goal in 2 consecutive FA Youth Cup finals, which meant the first year I won it, I was playing underage.
Right. And
I was in a great side. I had people like Kenny Sanson, who was 73 England caps, Peter Nicholas, I think he's still the 2nd or 3rd most capped Welshman, Jerry Murphy, caps for Era Ireland. This was you know,
Those are the guys, yeah.
this was the guys that Malcolm Allison and Terry Venables went out to cherry pick to bring in the best youngsters from Great Britain, and I played in a great side. There's no doubt. And Crystal Palace was seen as the team of the 80s. This is the development team with the best coaches, with the best everything coming through, the best young players. We had a very young side. And then, like most things in life and what we see on a regular basis here in Trinidad and Tobago, politics and boardroom politics spoilt the whole thing. The manager was fired. Malcolm Allison, Terry Venables took over for a short while, and then he moved on to Queen's Park Rangers. I went with him, and it was such a shame because everything was working. Team was winning games. We were winning championships. We went from 3rd to 2nd to 1st Division promotions. I then move on to Queen's Park Rangers, and my 2nd season we go to the FA Cup final as a 2nd Division club. We go against Tottenham Hotspur. I score the goal in the first game to draw level. First game was tied. We got beat 1-0 in the replay. The next season we got promotion into the Division 1 stroke Premier, and it went from there. We were top London club, Queen's Park Rangers, for 3 out of 5 years. And then I then moved on to Tottenham Hotspur, which was a transitional period where recognising the sort of players that were coming into the club. Paul Gascoigne was the best player I ever played with or against. What an unbelievable talent. And there was the Gary Linekers, Paul Walsh, Gary Mabbitts. There were some wonderful players in that Tottenham side. And we were a great team. We got a cup final again in '91, which we won. Unfortunately, I broke my leg in the early rounds, so I was only on the bench. Didn't play in the game. Playing for England over that period of time. World Cup '86. Playing in the same game as the infamous Diego Maradona when he scores the hand of God goal, which in any country in the world is handball and a free kick to England. But they give a goal and Argentina go on to win the game 2-1. And that was a bit of disappointment for me and every Englishman, because I think we had a team there capable of winning the World Cup. And man for man, we were better, in my opinion, we were better than Argentina. But they had Diego Maradona, who was head and shoulders world's best player. Everywhere he went, and he went to some very average teams. He went to Napoli in Italy, that were very average at the time, and even Barcelona, that were mid-table, and he took them to champions immediately. That's how good he was. And this guy ripped England in 1986. He ripped Terry Fenwick's international football career in 90 minutes. But he was the best player in the world.
Did Trevor Francis play in your time or before you?
Trevor was just before me. I know Trevor very well.
I played with him in Detroit.
Oh, you did? Okay. And he was a great player. He was very kick and he was a good player. But he was a generation before me, really.
Well, I know Ron Davies and George Best and Charlie Cook and all these guys was in my team in LA too as well.
Fabulous players.
But they were excellent players.
Oh, and wonderful characters from the British game. And that must have been at the very start of, what was it called then, the American League?
North American Soccer League, NASL. And we had Frank Worthington and a bunch of those guys came over. Beckenbauer,
brilliant,
and all that.
That was a great time. I mean, that.
It was.
And football, for all we're looking at MLS now, I think that was the trigger. That was the spark of light. That started everything up in the States. And now the United States of America have got a big problem on their hands, where all of their indigenous sports like baseball and their gridiron football, they're all now playing second position to soccer, because it's now, and I've always felt this in the United States, they're like Trinidad in many respects. The bandwagonists, they win at something and they will put money behind it and run.
Right.
They win the Women's World Cup. They're now doing well with the youth leagues, the men's team are getting there. So it's a whole family thing that are moving forward with soccer.
Right.
None of them other sports really entertain the same values. So I'm so pleased that Trinidad and Tobago are within the CONCACAF region. That's something that we must take advantage of, giving our kids as much exposure as possible to that. But football's a fabulous game.
So when you, what made you get into coaching, or when did you get into coaching?
Well, Terry Venables, again, my mentor, when I went to Tottenham from very early on, this is me, I was probably 27, 28. Terry invited me into his office, and I want you to start your coaching career now. And I thought, well, wow, hang on a second, I've still got another 5 or 6 years left as a player.
Right.
I'm still in the team, captain of the team, I'm still in with the England. He said, Terry, this is the longevity of football. This is your future. This is where I want you to go. So from very early, I was then coaching on a Tuesday and Thursday evenings, the Tottenham Hotspur youth teams and the academies that were coming into Tottenham at that time. And it was a great insight to me, for me, recognising how you have to pitch things to youngsters. So with all the skill sets that you're born with and with all that you learn over your career, it's then a different skill set altogether, putting that over to a youngster so it's crystal clear and they understand where you're coming from and what you're asking of them. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I never missed a session. Tuesday and Thursday I was always there. I was always well prepared. I knew what I wanted to deliver to the kids. And these kids, like here in Trinidad and Tobago, the better kids that we had coming in were from what would be considered hotspots, high-risk areas, kids that weren't always academic, but had great talents as footballers. And out of them, we had David Beckham came through that period of time. And I was fortunate enough as a kid, David, 11 and 12, coached him several times before he then went to Manchester United. But great stuff.
I just want to touch on, you know, your childhood, that you spoke of two things, and I'm wondering if later on in life it transitioned to being very important. Is it that you think you had the success because it was this option or nothing, if we could put it that way, and then you had very good mentors or people working around you because you were guided the right way, you know, you're given the opportunity. They set up a professional environment from a young age because, you know, you were working with some of the top clubs, some of the top coaches. So we could look at, when we come back from the break, if you could explain that the professional environment at a very young age was what was influential into your longevity in your career.
Sure.
Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
I came from a wonderful community that wanted to do well for each other, and particularly the kids. So it didn't matter what sort of skill set, and I had people that went to school with me, became musicians and other things, and the community pushed them and pushed them.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Okay, welcome back. Narada, before the break, you were...
So I just wanted to touch on if you think that early exposure to a professional setting and environment was what helped you with a longevity in your career and the guidance that you had from some of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was absolutely a professional background and the support that I had. But as much as that, it was the community that I came from. It was a very close-knit mining community where the town looked after their kids. And we could play in the streets very safely. There wasn't a problem. The grounds, we always had footballs available, goals and nets and all of that sort of stuff that sometimes go for granted, but often don't come through. I came from a wonderful community that wanted to do well for each other, and particularly the kids. So it didn't matter what sort of skill set, and I had people that went to school with me, became musicians and other things, and the community pushed them to get them away from the mining community to do well for themselves. And I think that was my first real discipline. It was staying together, being a team player, doing it for the team rather than an individual, and that's been me over the course of my life. And the step up into professional football couldn't have been better, because I went into people like Malcolm Allison and Terry Venables that were exactly the same types. It wasn't about them, it was about the kids that they were taking on board and coaching, and they give everything. They didn't hold anything back, and that was not just on the field of play, it was personalised as well off the field. So it was a whole holistic learning process where, yes, you want to be the best possible player you can, but you also had to be a team player. You had to be able to stand your ground for your team, for your principles of player, for what your club was all about. You were a representative of that club, and that's how they drove it forward in a very professional manner. That was brilliant. That's what I think we're sadly lacking today. I mean, you look at the social issues and problems that, not just here in Trinidad and Tobago, around the world, the killings, the murders, the this, the that, and the other. It's so ugly out there. And it's because we've not got as many of them communities now that look after their kids and the people within that community to ensure that they're on the right path instead of the wrong. How do we replace that?
So Venables was your like your mentor, or
Absolutely.
is that the person you patting yourself after? Or?
Yes, well, I keep in touch with Terry Venables even up to today. He's now, he runs his own hotel and sports resort in Spain. Wonderful guy, very smart, very humorous, a funny chap, but he was such a visionary in football terms. He saw things before the crowd, and he went for it. He wasn't prepared to wait for it and get nervous. He was very confident in his own abilities, and that was him. If I think it's right, I'll go for it, and he did, and it was always ever successful. And even, you know, the Crystal Palace was successful, promotions under him, FA Cup finals with Queen's Park Rangers and Tottenham Hotspur. The England side that he took over in '91 was brilliant, with Teddy Sheringham and Shearer, and really he should have had the England job for 20 years. But again, politics and English FA stepped in.
He was on the '66 squad?
He was on this squad, and then they dropped him from that squad.
Okay.
He didn't actually make the 22-man cut. But he was a great character, wonderful man to sit down and talk to, and he would guide you with your life off the field as well as on. He would keep an eye on everybody from a distance, wouldn't interfere with you too much, but if he thought that you were getting out of hand or you weren't performing as well as you, he knew there would be something behind that, and he'd pull you to one side, hang on a second, and then discipline kicked in, and he was like everybody's dad. And he was everybody's dad that you knew there was a fine line that you didn't overstep. And he run things perfectly that way, where we respected him, we respected the coaching that he gave us, we got success because of it, and it was a lovely life experience.
Okay, let's cross the pond, and now we're in Trinidad. And we landed in Trinidad 18 years ago on vacation?
No, I was recommended. Bobby Robson brought Newcastle United. Bobby Robson, Sir Bobby Robson, who was the former Newcastle United and England coach. He had Newcastle United here in 2000. And whilst he was here, he was approached by several club owners at the time. Could you recommend somebody to come over? And he pulled my name out of the hat. And really, I hadn't got a clue where Trinidad and Tobago was. Found out it was in the Caribbean, and I thought, well, a week's holiday would do very nicely, thank you, away from the terrible weather back in the UK.
Right.
So I really came down just because of Bobby Robson.
Okay.
And when I reached, I met some wonderful people. They welcomed me very well. I looked at the football, the facilities, the players, the stadia at that time.
That time they would have been new. They would have been
all
just
coming
built,
on
right?
stream, fairly new. But I recognised, Steve, that it was nothing more than a development job. Everything was run at best at a semi-professional level.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry about this, we'll move on, we'll get over that. And it was like, make excuses for getting over things to get your teams out there, where I was now coming from a 35-year professional background in England,
Right.
where everything was spot on, everything was detailed, everything was disciplined. And that was from your kit and equipment to the ground that you were going to the transport. Every player would have to be sorted out and looked after. Everything was spot on. And I came into an environment where it was nothing like that. But there was some great talent, I could see that. And there was a lot of willing hearts and souls that were prepared to give enough to make it work. And I signed a one-year agreement, which I couldn't believe that I did it. But I signed a one-year agreement. And here we are 18 years later. I clearly didn't like it.
But you a glutton for punishment. Why?
Well, the thing is, and this is, you know, again, it's coming back to society. And there are sections of society in Trinidad and Tobago that are not nice.
Mm-hmm.
There are some wonderful Trinis, thank God, and I got on with a lot of them, and today I've got some wonderful friends. But there are sections of society that are not nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a crabs in a barrel scenario where that is not me, that's not the culture that I've come from.
Right.
The background, the home that I come from, the town, the street, the everything I came from was about helping each other to get to where you want to be if you can. And that, everybody in my career has been that way in England, bringing me forward. And that's ingrained in me. I want to help. And I'm great at helping coaches to come on board and help me to deliver better. And if they're doing a better job, where you go, I'm good with that. But we're in a society whereby if it's not me, it's not going to be you either. And that, unfortunately, spills into very much into politics. And it's in sport, whether it's football, cricket, whatever it is. You've got individuals that are ingrained in the system that if they're not going to win or it's not going to be them selected, then they don't want anybody else to be there. And that for me is letting the kids down, because, and this is my philosophy, these kids, and I've got a very young daughter, a 1-year-old now, who's my life. She's fabulous.
Right.
Married to a Trini, lovely young daughter, and she will be brought up with the right family values, make no mistake, with lots of discipline attached. But you've got kids that are very naive and very, how can I say this? They are virgins. And they're taught the wrong things through adults. Now, we've got a wonderful opportunity as adults and coaches to deliver some real good things to these youngsters very early on, so they take on the right standards, the right everything, and become, if they're not going to be good footballers, become better rounded human beings first. Social program. If they're good footballers, great, help everybody else around you. And when you make it on the outside and do great things, help your family and friends, so your whole community, family grows with you. That, unfortunately, is very hard to come by here. And I just think that is long-term society failure with the wrong cultural standards.
Only because you You didn't live in Point Fortin, Terry. You're,
I think
know-
Point
I know
Fortin and
changes.
Terry's tongue have some similarities,
you live in Port Spain.
And really,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. London is far away from where I came from in the northeast
Right.
and the mining community. And almost, if you look at the UK itself, from Scotland, England and Wales, you go into different areas and it's very different. And I see that in Trinidad. But Trinidad, for me, Steve, is small enough to
All be on one page.
to share them things
Share, yeah.
and help people out and do good things. There are some wonderful people here that do exactly that. I look at Anthony Sherwood right here in San Fernando, does a wonderful job with his academy, and he's not been given the opportunity to continue at other levels.
Right.
And this is a guy that was a great footballer, well educated, been outside, seen how the
came
outside
back.
world do it,
Came back,
and he
yeah.
comes back to give back to his community. What a wonderful gesture that is.
Right.
We've got people in Port of Spain like Jan Lillywhite. There's people all over the country with academies like that. And that's what I've done over the last 7 years. People have not recognised. I put together my Football Factory Academy, and that was because I wanted to build that to a degree to get then into professional football. So I'd have a natural progression,
Right.
kids to get out. And this is a social programme servicing a professional programme,
Right.
because it's what I love. And there's not enough of that because it's stifled by the people in high places that have got a different agenda.
I want to know. I
I've
want to
got-
know from.
Can I just have a second?
Yes.
Because
sure.
I did bring you two guys a little token of my Football Factory Foundation.
That's
Thank you
Terry
very
Fenwick.
And you'll see on one side it's got the Trini flag,
And the other,
Yes.
and on the next side it's got the
The
Great
Great
Britain.
Britain flag.
Britain flag.
And that's what it's about. It's about building partnerships and relationships for
Right.
the betterment of the youngsters that we've got around us.
Now, Terry, I want you to take me through some of the clubs that you've been with in Trinidad.
Well, I came
And
in
there you did.
I came in with Salmon Jablets here,
Uh-huh.
and there was only 8 teams in the Pro League at the time. And it was, how can I say this? It was all of the tough little kids from the street corners that were playing in this Salmon Jablet team.
yeah.
And they were 27, 28, some of them were in their 30s already. And oh my God, who's this Englishman coming in to tell us how to play our football? There was a lot of, they were worried about me. And in that very first season, we came 5th out of 8 teams.
Right.
And I remember Jerry Hospitalis saying to me, oh my God, we need to be competitive next season. And this was me getting myself familiar with the environment, with the culture,
Yeah.
with the players, how they operate, what goes on in their, not just their football, but their private life, and get familiar. The second term, the second season, I selected all of these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And this was at a time the Kerry Baptiste, the Josh Johnsons, the Colin Samuels,
Correct.
Kelvin Jack I brought in, who was a youngster at the time, 18, 19. And some wonderful young players, Nigel Daniel, Ian Gray, players that I could see had a big future but were being stifled by these older players in front of them. And I cleared the older players out. I brought the youngsters through. We had a very disciplined pre-season over 8 weeks. They worked 2 sessions a day. We took them on a pre-season tour to Tobago so I could see what talent was available over there. And we played 4 games over there, brought them back. And it was a different level of discipline. It was a different level of fitness.
Yeah.
It was different coaching to what they'd ever had before. It was all about the team and not individuals. It was what they should have been getting from a long time. And we started the season like a house on fire, and we never give it up and won the league. And it was the first time Jablets here had won the championship. And at that time we were playing, I think it was 4 rounds, 2 home, 2 away type games. And your Joe Publics were in the league, your W Connections, Police and Army, North East Stars were in the team. Docks Koalas, can you remember
Koalas at
them?
that time,
Docks.
correct.
So that it was, again, a very much a learning curve, a development programme. And from there, East-West Corridor, we started to speak to schools and school teachers and sports teachers. So we started getting the better youngsters coming into our academy at San Juan Jablatier. And from there, they would progress into the pro team. And it really went well. And I think we had wonderful sponsors on side with CL Financial and then Cleco. Lawrence Dupre had a wonderful vision for the club as to how it should move forward, how we should embrace international partners, and however many players we could get out on scholarships, on professional contracts. And it was a wonderful working environment for me, having people at high level supporting me. It's great.
Right. I remember I was, well, of course, still living abroad, but I was in New York and watching some highlights, maybe on YouTube or whatever, with a professional game, one of your games. Some team that scored on you guys, and this guy running to celebrate at your bench. And I'm like just about to say, why don't somebody check this guy? One of the players I meant, and then boom, he ran into you.
Yeah.
And I says, perfect. I says, I hope your players learn from that event. I don't know if you did it for them to learn or whatever, but
No, let me give you a little,
yeah.
This is 12, 13 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But we were playing against W Connection in a cup final.
Mm-hmm.
The same W Connection team had 7 or 8 Brazilians in the starting line.
Right.
And let me make no mistake, my competitive edge has always ever been about the youngsters here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've not gone down too well with W Connection and their management, because I can't understand and I can't see where 7 or 8 Brazilians, Colombians, Venezuela, what good they are doing for the development of football in Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly.
My team was 100% Trinidad
Local, right.
Tobagonian. And that developed into a rivalry, and we didn't sit back. We changed the level of the game. We were playing at a much quicker tempo. We were playing in a much more direct fashion, and we were more successful than them. And over the years, if you can see how Jablatier had evolved, and team players going through into the national team, recognising that in the national squad that went to World Cup in 2006, Otis Whitley and Sid Gray started. Kelvin Jack would have also started if he'd been fit.
Mm-hmm.
Got injured in the Sweden game. But we also had players like Angus Eve that was involved with us at the time, in the squad, in and around it. We had a host of players that had come through the development process,
Right.
and done well for their national side and gone out to play overseas. I couldn't see where that was doing us. Now, this is government putting government money into programmes for Trinidad and Tobago, where foreigners, now this is, you know, I'm a foreigner myself.
A bit contradictory, yeah.
It's a conflict of
Yeah.
interest. And when your squad of 22 or 24 players is made up of 12 and 14 players from outside, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela or wherever, everywhere else in the world there is a FIFA criteria whereby for you to move countries, you've got to fit that criteria by playing international football.
Correct.
I think it's 75% of the competitive games.
Competitive games.
And that clearly wasn't being adhered to. So I'm playing by rules, and that's what I come from. I've got my players playing to the rules, and I've got a club within our mechanism, within our league, that are bringing in third-rate Brazilians to win our very poor development league in Trinidad. I couldn't agree with that.
You're right. I can't either. And when I played in the North American Soccer League, because it was developing in America, we must have 2 Americans on the field at all time.
Yeah.
And when I went to Mexico, only allowed 2 foreign players.
Yeah.
All the rest has to be Mexicans. Yeah. So it's how it is developed.
Steve, there's no doubt that the Pro League here in Trinidad and Tobago is nothing more than a development league.
Right.
We will have 1 or 2 good teams that come up now and again that compete in the CONCACAF league, but we get knocked out in the early stages because we're not professional, we're not organised well enough, we've not got the facilities. There's a whole host of things that we haven't got. And now coaches on the top of it, the administrators that are running our game, are running it for the wrong reasons. Our Pro League, in my opinion, hasn't gone too far forward since that first season to 18 years later. We're doing the same things now. And only in recent years where a guy called Anthony Harford with his Super League started going into communities and playing games in community grounds, we've now got floodlights, we're now playing in front of a little crowd, 200 and 300 people in communities. It's starting to get there, but it's taken a long while. And it's taken a long while because there's very little vision heading our game.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I want us to get into some TT football and so on. Viewers, we'll be right back after a short break.
Other coaches here, I'd leave Terry to get on with his own thing, da-da-da-da-da. They're not seeing it's not for me.
Right.
And our national teams are, we should not be behind any other Caribbean team up and down the region.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Welcome back, viewers. Before the break, Terry, we were getting into some Trinidad football. And my only disappointments with Trinidad football really is you've been here 18 years and we've bring people in and out and around and about. And even today, we brought a guy from, not Dennis. Dennis is local.
Yep.
But there's another guy we brought in as an assistant who is English, not local. And we have Terry Fenwick, who is a local foreign or foreign local. And you never got the opportunity. I'm disappointed. I am one of your biggest fans in pushing that you get
Thank you very much.
a spot in this national
Thank
team.
you.
And there have to be a reason. Can you tell me? Do you know?
I think there'll probably be several reasons. I mean, I'm not easy because you see, when you're fighting, and Narada will back me up on this, when you're fighting for the kids on the street that need to be in a better place, you're quite often bumping your heads against the management and administration of football clubs and indeed the association. There is no support for these kids anywhere. They're not taught how to handle bank accounts, how they should be investing their money in property, looking after their families, their responsibilities if they're parents. A lot of these kids have got young families.
Yeah.
There's none of that. And that is the whole idea. When you've got an administration at the top, it's developing the league and the players within the league so for the betterment of society. That doesn't happen in Trinidad and Tobago. They're far from it. I've been in Trinidad 18 years. I've been to one meeting with coaches from around the islands. I think that's disgraceful. And yes, you're right. Through the ranks, in the English leagues, 12 years in Division 1 stroke Premiership, as it's known today, England International, Cup finals and medals and this, that and the other. And I'm here to help wherever I can. And it's the crabs in a barrel scenario all over again, where if you're not on the inside, you're not on the in crowd, you don't get any. Well, they can keep that.
I think also qualification-wise, as a coach, you have one of the highest accolades in the country.
Well, it's my qualifications are great. My experience is better because I've been here so long.
Well, you know more local players than I do.
I think even on the present national team or within the last 5 years, you've probably coached 70% of the...
70% of the kids coming through our national ranks. But you see, the administration and the coaches, I'm here for the kids, and I'm not cared who I upset. If there's something that is wrong, I will be verbal about it. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not verbal about it, how do you correct anything? Do you continue to put up with nonsense? That's not Terry Fenwick. I will not do that. My footballers that come to San Juan Jablatir, they come to Central FC or wherever else I go next, there are clear rules and regulations that they've got to abide by. Like, if they're late, I fine them 50% of their monthly salary. Mm-hmm. Guess what? They're not late.
Right.
They turn up on time every day, and we get on with things. That now becomes a threat in the background that they do not want half of their money gone.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I use that, and there's one other thing. Two things you can take away from footballers in Trinidad and Tobago. One is money. They don't like that. And two is stopping them from playing. It's what they love.
Yeah.
So they're the two things that I've got a grip on. As manager of the team that looks after the budget, that brings the players through, coaches them, I see what they're doing off the field as well as on the field. Mm-hmm. I can manage them, and I can use these two things to discipline my players. My teams are always the most disciplined. We run for 95 minutes. We close teams down. We're organised, whether we're going forward or defensively. I put good information into these teams where they work together as units. And them units might be me right back and right winger working together, my right winger and my centre forward, so they know what they're doing within the team mechanism. Mm-hmm. If it was just about, and Trinidad and Tobago have got some wonderfully talented players. Mm-hmm. If it was just about giving them their head, yeah, go ahead. We'd be watching rubbish, like we watch in the college leagues. Right. We watch games that are spread out over 100 metres, where the rest of the world are playing in tight-knit 25 and 30, 35-yard areas, and they're operating as teams and units, and they're moving the ball and moving their team accordingly. Football today is about distances. It's how much distance, when we've not got the ball, is between me and my defenders, keeping it nice and tight, so we're not giving space to the opposition. And then when we win the ball, it's maximising on what we got. Now, that information is about coaches giving that to the players. I don't think that happens in a lot of clubs. I think clubs here are coached as a team, as the whole body. So they're not itemised as my right back and right winger, my right back and my right centre back, my centre forward. It's not cut up and isolated. So these individuals in positions are crystal clear as to what their role, what their job is within the team mechanism. Mm-hmm. I don't think that happens. So, for example, we have national teams where our wingers, right and left, they go up and down, up and down, up and down, and that's it. And then I know on 60, 70 minutes when the substitutes are being made, it's going to be one of them wingers because they're not in the game. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not them players' fault. It's the coaches that don't get them coming in off the line. Mm-hmm. Involved with midfield player, getting forward next to your centre forward. The top players in the world today, Messi and Ronaldo, they start in wide positions.
Right.
They do a defensive job for their teams in wide positions. When they win the ball, their team, the two fullbacks push on to give width, and Ronaldo and Messi come into pockets of space in behind the centre forward where they can maximise their abilities. So they get on the ball. That is coaching. That is having these players recognise you will get more of the ball in these positions because the opposition can't mark you if we've got width and we've got height by the centre forward and 2 fullbacks.
Right.
So you then developing their skill sets and you're getting your best players on the ball more often. Here in Trinidad, we win it and we're running in straight lines, and centre forwards, more often than not, are running from central to wide. They've got to score goals. Criteria for a centre forward in any team, you must score goals. So their runs have got to be out to in, so when they get in, they're in front of goal.
Yeah.
Our centre forwards are running down into the corners of the penalty area and wide into positions where they can't score, Steve. So my coaching and my experience and the knowledge that I've gained under so many fabulous coaches, and also by watching local coaches do nice things, Anthony Street at St Anne's Rangers, I've picked up 1 or 2 things off of him that I think, oh, wow, that's good, I like that, I'll use that myself. Now that's being able to openly develop my own game. I don't think other coaches say, I'd leave Terry to get on with his own thing, da-da-da-da-da. They're not seeing it's not for me, it's for the kids.
Right.
And our national teams are, we should not be behind any other Caribbean team up and down the region. We've got to be at the pinnacle there, at the top. We've got to be qualifying for this Copa America in South America now, which is huge, and we must be in the Gold Cup. And we're getting beat off Bermuda. We're getting run very close against Barbados. We've got teams that shouldn't be anywhere close to us, stopping our development and our progress. And that, for me, tells me straight away, straight off the bat, that is coaches not recognising that they're not, it's not working. We're damaging the game. We've not got administrators that can see that this is not going anywhere. We need to be bringing people to the table that can add value to lift the quality and standards of our game, so our sides then become winners at all levels. And I think I've done that at club level. I've done it very well. My players have gone outside on international contracts. And that disappoints me, Steve. I will not remain quiet about it, because it's not about upsetting other coaches or clubs. It's the damage we're doing to our kids.
True. I think they've bypassed you and they brought in so many other people got opportunity, and all they have to do is give you an opportunity. And I don't understand why. So whenever Lawrence goes, or if he ever leaves, I like Lawrence now, he's doing a good job. But if he leaves, I'll be the first to advocate for Terry Fenwick. You should be the next choice, because everybody else has got a choice.
Steve, can I just step in there? I mean, with all due respect, Dennis Lawrence, I've only met him once. Seems like a nice man. And yes, I think everybody would love a Trini to be running the team. Dennis has had no management experience whereby he is the decision maker and he lives and dies by the decisions he makes.
Okay.
In my opinion, they should have brought Dennis in. I've got no worries about that at all. But bring him in as an assistant and let him grow into the job.
Right.
We've just gone through St. Feet was an absolute embarrassment to the whole country. We bring a guy halfway around the world and embarrassing him in front of the public in his first interview, showing him off to the public. You can't do that. And that's not just football. That's in any circles of business, of sport, anything. That was a disgrace. How can we do that to a man who's given up his life in Europe to come and coach here in Trinidad, and we abuse him in a
Right.
interview? But there's got to be a long-term process with the right people involved And again, there are some good Trinidadians around, and I've mentioned the Anthony Streets, the Anthony Sherwoods, the people like that have got knowledge and they've got education behind them, where they can progress themselves and indeed football into the right areas. I would love to help and assist any of them.
Okay, we got 1 minute left, so maybe we need to do this again, bring you on another time so we can discuss even more about Trinidad football, and maybe you can join my panel when we talk about Trinidad football.
That would be very kind of you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I want to thank you for being here, Bud, and I hope you be the next national coach.
It's very kind of you. Thank you very
so
much.
Thank you.
Narada,
Good to
thank
see
you for being here.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
Terry, thank you for the cap as well.
Thanks for this as
I
well.
really appreciate it. Viewers, look good.
Football Factory, that's my academy.
Football, yes.
It's a great academy.
Okay, ACTN, thank you for giving us the opportunity. Viewers, thank you for watching. We have a Facebook page. Check us out. We have an email address, fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. Drop us a line. This is my cap. My name is Steve David. I want to say good night. See you guys next week.